good, everybody? It's Two back here with another episode of the Casual Basketball Show. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're gonna get right into it. Jayden Quaintance, a sophomore at the University of Kentucky. I think he's the youngest sophomore in the country, 18 years old. He spent his freshman season at Arizona State as a 17-year-old, and he had a lot of draft buzz last year, and this year he's actually eligible to be drafted, and he has been on a lot of radars. He's ranked very high, and somebody I was interested in coming into this past week, and hearing the rumblings that he was going to play last Saturday against St. John's and things like that, I decided to dive into the film, and this is what I saw. A lot of the things that I saw from Jayden Quaintance's freshman year at Arizona State, there was a lot of flash in his game. There was a lot of flashes of great things that you can see: the athleticism on defense, being able to go out and guard guards, block shots at the rim, block shots in transition, block shots on switches. The block reel was really insane and nice to see. And there was some other flashes offensively, a little bit with the ball handling, a little bit with the passing, and a little bit with the scoring. And I mean a little bit when I say a little bit, and I also mean flashes when I say flashes. Like, flashes are very few and far between, because looking at the actual games themselves and watching his minutes, and I want to say like 8 or 9 games from last season, including some of the good ones, especially the last one of his season last year where he ended up getting injured, unfortunately, against Kansas State. That was his best game. And those other games, it was like every now and then he would make a play, and he just wasn't really fully convicted on what he was doing on the floor and really unsure of himself. And that's something you kind of want to give a player like that grace with, being 17 years old as a freshman in college. That is not normal. That's not something like you see 19-year-old freshmen have issues adjusting to the college game. So that's something you kind of want to give him grace for. And building off of that Kansas State game, we come into this past weekend's game against St. John's, where Quaintance put on a show in his very limited minutes. I think he played like 10 minutes or so in this game, and he was really good defensively against a good matchup for him, I thought, in Zuby Ejiofor. Jayden Quaintance, in his minutes, outplayed him decidedly, and it was really impressive to see.
He owns that 3 seconds. St. John's not going to see the kind of competition that they have in the SEC. Put the ball to the rim. Big man throws it up. They drew so much attention away.
Edgecombe with it, 5 to shoot, getting downhill. Quaintance pins it on the glass.
9. Wildcats. Nice denial by Bryant. Bryant, another defensive play. Bryant, denial by Bryant. Bryant, another.
Oh my gosh.
Takes it straight. D9. It's Quaintance.
And I also want to throw in here his other teammate, a freshman actually on Kentucky, Malachi Moreno. He was really impressive. He's the guy that was lower on people's radars coming into the season in terms of NBA. A 7-foot freshman coming into Kentucky to play center is somebody who's very talented, and he showed some of those flashes in this game against St. John's, where he was blocking shots, being a vertical rim threat, being a decent passer, a guy that can communicate on defense. It was a really solid going for him. And I want to see if there's more in the tank as we continue out through the season, because that was really impressive to me. And keeping it with the bigs in this class, I also got a chance to really tap in to see what Hans Steinbach at Washington had to bring to the table as a prospect. And I came away really impressed, and I think I might be on the Hans Steinbach train going into the draft. At Washington, he's 6'11". I want to say he's probably around like 220, 225, 230. Looking at his frame, I'm not 100% sure. It's just me guesstimating. He has really good hands. He can catch the ball on rolls. He's a really good rebounder. He makes contact on screens, which is something that I have a weird pet peeve about with bigs. I hate when bigs don't make contact on screens. They're so quick to move off the screen. It defeats the purpose of it, in my opinion. Like, it's make contact on your screens. He makes contacts on the screens, and he can finish around the rim. He can finish in transition. He's been able to put on film some clips of him grabbing and going and hitting behind the back and getting down to the rim to dunking on somebody. It's been really impressive, and his production has really shown up. He's had, I think, a 28-12 game, a 26-10 game, and he's had a few double-doubles against conference teams already. because conference play in the Big Ten starts in December because they got like 30 teams. But he's been really impressive and somebody that I'm really, really high on after watching some of his film.
Looks forward to Steinbach. Gets it away. Wow! And Steinbach.
Steinbach controls. He brings it across. 6'11" big man out of Germany. Oh, watch out with the one-hand slam.
Moving away from the bigs to continue and looking at building out my board, I moved over to the guards, and I was in Hawaii for the past week and some change, and that was a good time as vacation. So I didn't get a chance to watch really much of any basketball, and I had to catch up a lot. That's why there's been a big gap between the videos. One of the games that I was able to watch when I was in Hawaii was Texas Tech and Arkansas, and Christian Anderson and Darius Acuff Jr. had a hell of a matchup, and they went at each other. Christian Anderson Jr., his game he's real nice, bro. He's nice, bro. He's about, I think he's like 6'1", 6'2", maybe. He's a smaller guard. He can get to the rim off the bounce with the screen or without the screen. He can really shoot the leather off the ball, and he's actually having some production that matches. Coming from last year, him being a guy that came off the bench to be a spark plug, and him transitioning to become a point guard, and over the summer playing with the German national team and getting reps at that with actual real pros like the Wagner brothers, Obst, who's probably the best German shooter that I know besides Dirk. And Dennis Schroeder, and learning behind those guys and getting tips and pointers with the talent that Anderson already has seems to have paid off. He's playing the point guard role for Texas Tech really well in his sophomore year. He's assisting, he's getting to the rim, he's shooting the leather off the ball. And his past two performances, this game against Arkansas that I just finished talking about against Acuff, and over on Saturday night against Duke, where he led a comeback against this Duke team. And he had his moment in the Garden, and maybe he solidified his spot in the draft. So it's gonna be a thing where we're gonna have to continue to see how Christian Anderson plays throughout the rest of the Big 12 play, especially in that conference when you got to go against Iowa State with Killian Torrey, Taman Lipsey, and and Kansas and Melvin Council Jr. and Marco Jackson, and possibly getting matched up with Darren Peterson if he's healthy enough to stay around, and other teams. And it's just going to be a lot. It's Houston, Arizona, like, it's a lot that he's going to have to contend with. And if he proves himself, that would be the standard to be like, hey, he's an elite enough scorer to be able to come in and play a certain role in the league at his size. It's something we're going to have to continue to see, along with the defense. Because he is small, we have to figure out how effective he can be as a defender.
Deep three. Got it! Anderson in transition. Goes!
Wagner hounding Christian Anderson, who again has played the entire game so far. On the step back.
Continuing with our guard trim, we're going to talk about Darius Acuff Jr. And Darius Acuff Jr. has been on an absolute tear, dog. I think he's had, 2 straight 20-point double-doubles, or 3 or something like that in a row. And he's been averaging 20 points over the past few games, and he's been really killing. He killed against Texas Tech, like I mentioned earlier. He's one of those guys who I can kind of... watching him score the basketball, even looking at his stuff when he was in EYBL and the way he can create, you kind of want to place him in a similar role. I'm not saying he's the same talent or the same type of experience, but role-wise, I could see a Jalen Brunson-esque role that he's going to have to play for this Arkansas team, and seeing if that could translate up to the next level for him to be that absolute kind of star player. And the scoring has to be freaking elite to do that. And right now, it looks freaking elite. Look at what he did against Houston, dog. I'm going to put it on the screen. We're going to have the film going the whole video. Look at what he did against Houston, bro. He did not have a lot of issues. He did turn the ball over trying to pass it in certain instances, just because of the way Houston plays defense. It's just, if you're not ultimately prepared for it, it's going to ruffle your feathers. And even if you are prepared for it, it's just like a hard thing to go against. And his teammates kind of showed it was really just him and Malik Ewing. And if Malik Ewing made 60 to 70% of his free throws, they may have won that game. But Darius Acuff, he's been excellent. He's been able to distribute the ball well. He's been able to get to the rim off the bounce without a screen, get to whatever shot he really wants, and he's been able to finish up around and through contact from bigger players throughout the season too. And somebody that's really impressed me and somebody I think highly of now going into this cycle.
Rich, because I will be fainting. That's A-Cup. Really easy. A-Cup answers. Corner three.
And one of the guys that A-Cuff matched up with was Kingston Flemings. And Kingston Flemings is not somebody that I had a chance to talk about on the channel yet, but I have written about him in one of my first NBA Draft Notebook posts that I put on Substack. Subscribe to me on Substack if you are interested in reading things. You know what I'm saying? Reading is fundamental. I think we should all read stuff. And you should read my basketball yaps. Kingston Flemings is a guy that's climbed up my point guard rankings in this class, and I still kind of consider Darren Peterson a point guard, so I don't think anybody's touching that top spot for me right now besides Peterson, but Kingston Flemings is probably in that 2 to 3 range when it comes to point guards in this class, with Mike Hell-Brown Jr. and Darius A-Cuff running next to him and being in that race. And Kingston Flemings' value really comes based off of his athletic ability and what his athletic ability can be used to take advantage of on offense and defense. He's another guy that can get to the rim off the bounce. If he turns his shoulders, he's by you. He's going to be able to get to the rim and float and be able to finish. At times, he's able to make some amazing jump passes. Other times not. That's just the nature of jump passes and their danger. Everybody's not Tyrese Halliburton. But he's able to play make. He's able to knock down shots at a decent clip. He gets fouled. He's able to get to the to make free throws. He's able to get to the mid range. He has a really well-rounded game on offense, and something as he gets older, he's going to need to improve the efficiency and the volume of it at all times to be consistent, to be at that level. And defensively in Houston's system and the way they blitz the ball and trap and do a lot of things, he's very aggressive and he can use his athletic ability to get steals. He had an 8-steal game against Florida State. 8 steals. He had 8 steals against Florida State. That's something that's really impressive, man. And he's probably been one of the best freshmen in the Big 12 besides AJ DeMonson and Darren Peterson and Koa Pete and Killian Torre. It's a lot of guys in the Big 12. But Kingston Flemings is at the top of that list alongside Darren Peterson and AJ DeMonson, in my opinion. And Koa Pete. But him and Koa Pete, in my opinion, looking at my big board that I'm not going to show y'all because that's private business right now, they're kind of in the same range. So Kingston Flemings, salute to you, bro. Chris Sinak Jr., he's probably going to be up and down throughout the season, and somebody will have to kind of just check in with and look at his whole body of work once the season is over to really get a really good evaluation on him. And the same goes for Isaiah Harwell, who more than likely, from what I kind of gathered, unless he just jumps out and has an amazing conference play and tournament run, he's probably going to be back next year for Houston, and that's not a terrible thing. But yeah, shout out to Kingston Flemings.
He shoots it. He has been in the zone. Look at that. There's Flemings.
They hedge pick and rolls hard, but they always give good help to the big guy when he's edging outside. That's what forced that turnover. That's the other.
Flemings one-on-one gets into the lane. So tough.
And the last thing we're going to touch on in this episode of the Casual Basketball Show is obviously the race for the #1 pick. Checking in with the guys at the top of the class. If you haven't checked out my Believe the Hype videos, these are preseason videos, kind of previewing what these guys bring to the table as freshmen. Check those vids out. They're on the channel. They've been up for a while. Support is very much appreciated. Let's check in with these guys, man. Darren Peterson, still my #1 guy. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury and weird cramping things, and this is something that's starting to be a bit concerning for me. At first, it was like real early season, like hamstring strain, get over it, and he came back a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, bet we're back in action. He had a really good game against Missouri, which he pulled himself out of late in that game. And I was like, okay, maybe he's doing it out of precaution or he's on a real strict minutes restriction. And then a couple more games go by and he re-injured himself against NC State last weekend and really dampened things on the Darren Peterson training, a guy that I'm really, really excited to see play in some of these big matchups that Kansas had, and he's only played in like 2 of them. Something that's been disappointing, but in the minutes that he's played, he's still been overly impressive. The shot making is insane. The ability to handle the ball, handle pressure, be able to make plays for himself and his teammates, get to the rim, get fouled, shoot at the proficiency he does with the contest that he gets is number 1 pick stuff, bro. Let's put it simple. He has stuff on the defensive end as well where he gets a lot of steals. He's able to be in certain places and he knows where to be because he processes the game up top very, very well. Second to none in my opinion in this class right now. And yeah.
Important thing we do here at ESPN. Peterson gets loose for the 3rd time this half. He's got a UCLA after that. 2-point game here in Raleigh. Peterson has had a monster second half with a dozen. And
for the final 2 minutes of this first half, here's Peterson working on Boateng. Spin, fade away. Yeah.
Moving down to Cameron Boozer, who's number 2 on my board. He is in contention for Player of the Year, like far and away right now. There's guys that will be able to ascend to his level because the season is still very much in its infancy. But right now, Cameron Boozer looks like the best player in college basketball. And that is the pitch right now. He does everything. He can shoot the ball at a decent clip, even though the percentages aren't really where they should be. He can shoot the ball at a good clip. He's dominant inside. He's able to affect the game as a passer with his gravity on post touches. He's able to defend on both ends and get steals and get early anticipation blocks. There are things to worry about, obviously, with the tweener size, like what position does he play? Does his ball handling improve for him to become a true wing player and be able to ISO and get to certain spots on the floor in the mid-range and in the rim off the bounce? That's something that you're going to have to think about with Boozer. But if he's not going to be that and he's going to be a post player, it's something that's still at a really, really good baseline level, like a really good guy that can be a complimentary, possibly number 2 or 1B kind of guy if that's not the route that he goes down. So it's something that's really number 1 pick worthy as well.
Nice bump. They lead by 3. But look at all the help in the lane now. Out of timeout, Boozer, the double clutch of the deuce.
Back to 7 after the Gators had it down to 1. And now another steal. Boozer, yes! Boozer will drive it this time and score another Taylor.
With 7 of his 9, make it 9 of his 11 in this half.
I told you.
AJ DeBonsa has been on a recent stretch tear. Like, hey, don't forget about me, big dog. I'm still here, dude. Like, I'm still here, man. He had a triple-double against Eastern Washington, 33 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. He had a game against Clemson where in the first half, they really, really struggled, and he came out in the second half and had 22 points in the second half of that game. Completely changed the trajectory with his passing ability, his ability to get to the free throw line, and his ability to get to the rim and create shots for himself on the perimeter. Really, really good performances from AJ so far, and somebody I'm really interested to see how his conference play goes. Like I mentioned with Christian Anderson, there's a lot of really great teams in the Big 12. What happens when you play Houston? What happens when you play Kansas? What happens when you play Texas Tech? What happens when you play Arizona? Are you going to match up really well against those teams and have monster performances like you're having against Eastern Washington and Abilene Christian and lower level teams like that? And we also want to see where the 3-point percentages come from and see if that improves off the catch and shoot ability, because that's something that he needs to have going to the NBA and being a really great NBA player.
Make it 11 of his 17.
Boy, how about that? Another middle ball screen, which worked really well.
DeBonsa the drive. Oh, my!
That's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Casual Basketball Show. I appreciate y'all for making it this far. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video. Comment down below. Let's have a conversation about what we're talking about here, man. I'm always open for conversation. That's what this is for. You know what I'm saying? Support Two Hoops, man. Until next time.